I just, you know, I'm working on this video, and it's like it's like exciting, but at the same time, it's like I just wish that I didn't feel like so under the gun with it.
But I don't. You're the one putting yourself under the gun. Like, why?
Well,
are you pressuring yourself to get it done before you go to Midwest Gaming MGC?
Yes.
Right? Well, that's you.
I mean, I don't want to have
problem,
it. I don't need to have it completely finished. I just have to have it mostly finished.
Because
what?
Because
so we agreed to do a sponsorship in this video, and the contract said it needs to go live by April 5th.
Yeah. Usually there's like flexibility with that if you just ask.
I know, and maybe I can. I brought it up to the person. I mean, let's see if they responded. So it looks like they responded, but they didn't say anything about it. They just are forwarding the sense of urgency to the sponsor. But so we signed up to do this, and they had that due date, and it wouldn't be a problem except for the fact that we're going to the Midwest Gaming Classic tomorrow.
If you didn't need to go to these shows to stroke your own ego, then you'd have all the time that you need, you know.
Well,
that's the problem. You show up at these things and you're like, "Oh, love me," you know. It's like,
it's just one a year, though. I mean, I'm just going the one a year, basically.
By the way, I could tell by the look on your face last time that you thought I was BSing you, but there it is, right there, Diet Shasta Cola.
Oh, it's
the good stuff.
the look upon my face. But anyways, so we're going to this, and you know, I just feel like really a sense of pressure to get it done by the time, or at least have it mostly done before I leave, because I'm just going to have one day to kind of to prep it.
Yeah.
When I get back. And
I mean, can't you work? You can't really work on it while you're gone.
I can't really work when I'm there. And the idea is, you know, we don't like to really do sponsorships on videos where we've been been sent something to review or something like that.
Yeah, it's a bad look. I agree.
Yeah, so this is just like a ROM hacks video. It's a follow-up to one that I did back in 2019, which was a pretty low pressure episode.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've kind of taken a approach like with the last video and then this video of it's like, hey, I'm gonna make it what it can be. Yeah. And then just be okay with it. And I want it to be more laid back and casual.
Which you should do, because like I already said to you yesterday,
yeah,
I really like that Amber Nick video a lot.
Well, thank you. Thanks.
I liked the more relaxed style that it had, you know.
Well, this is definitely similar to that. I used like the same camera angle and stuff. And I shot all that yesterday. I wrote all my on-camera stuff and shot it all yesterday. Yeah. And basically what I'm doing is I'm not using this microphone for voiceover, actually.
Oh, no?
For it. I'm using the Zoom with the shotgun mic.
Oh, so you can have it out of the frame.
It's out of the frame, but now I'm just like recording that directly to the timeline using that microphone, which is feeding into the mixer and then feeds into my sound card so I can record that way. Yeah. And it's actually going really well. Yeah. And I just like kind of pull it out and it's just right there and I just read it off the screen. Yeah. And what's cool about that is that it makes my on-camera and my voiceover sound like it's all the same. Yeah. I was just thinking about that yesterday because I'm working on a video where I'm trying to think about how can I do exactly what you just said. Mm-hmm. I almost feel bad for not using this microphone for it. Why? But I think that's okay. I think that's okay.
I mean, you're using it for the podcast, and that's really the most important thing.
Right. I guess, you know, it gives me the podcast voice. Yes. So, yeah, how I'm going about this is that I'm basically capturing the stuff and then writing like a 3 to 5 sentence paragraph about that hack. Yeah. And then I just record it, and then I slot in the footage over top of it. Yeah. And I just move on to the next one. And I'm just going to keep on going. And I have all these games captured that over the weekend, I captured a bunch of stuff. And, you know, I just think that if this process like goes smoothly and I'm able to get this video basically finished by the time I go to bed tonight, I think that says a lot for my workflow and the how quickly future videos could possibly come out. Because, I released the Embernick video on Friday, and I started working on this on Saturday. So, if this ends up being, 25 to 30 minutes, and I make it in less than a week, I think that's pretty good. And it's a lot of these, like a lot of different factors are coming together to make it, happen faster. And, I have a huge archive of B-roll shots that I, just have built up over the years. And I'm just like pulling that stuff out if I need to. And, that saves me from going over and having to shoot more stuff. So that's pretty cool. I mean, there's a lot of different things.
That's cool that you have the B-roll archive. That's like a big time saver.
Yeah.
Because like this video I'm working on is like, it's going to be a lot of B-roll. I'm having to shoot all of it. It's just like you spend 5 times at least more time setting everything up. Mm-hmm. And then you spend, literally a few minutes shooting, okay, I need a shot of me plugging this in or doing whatever, but like what it takes to get all that set up is just like, I'm running up and down the stairs. Oh, I need this cable that's upstairs in my office, and et cetera, et cetera.
And just, you think about, it's fine when you're in the middle of a video. You're just kind of on autopilot, like, I need to get this done. I need to do this, get this shot. But then when you're done, you're like, do I got to do exactly that again for this next one?
Yeah.
And I think over time that just burns you out, and you want to be able to save that stuff and be like, well, if I need a certain cable being plugged in, like, why can't I reuse this shot in the future? And, the only person that's going to know, honestly, are people who are probably paying too close of attention and care too much, and yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's... I've over time, I've just put a lot of these things in place that I haven't really been capitalizing on as ways to keep myself from going insane.
Yeah.
So, when I recorded this footage, though, I don't know if I told you about how
which footage the
capture for this.
No, but I'm saying the gameplay footage or the footage of
the gameplay footage.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So I kind of revived our Twitch channel on Saturday when I realized, my old computer is over at the other, is at my BRoll desk.
Yeah.
And I've been using it over there because I got an open box refurbed like big TV that I've been using. And I can kind of move it back and forth, and I use it as a background for certain things. I've been mainly using it for like the B-roll stuff that we shoot for Digital Foundry.
Wasn't that another Caleb Pike thing?
Actually, this was before.
Oh, I remember you showing me something a while back where it was like, oh yeah, you can use a gigantic TV as like background, and I was like, yeah, that's pretty.
Yeah,
that's pretty.
That was like
right
after I'd gotten it. Actually, I was like, oh, like I'd seen that he did a video on that, and. I've been using that occasionally for backgrounds and stuff, but I have the other computer over there so that I can essentially bring up video or bring up, photographs that could be like backgrounds.
Yes.
And then I realized, my whole capture setup is feeding into a capture card in that computer. Why couldn't I just, use that as a separate streaming computer where I'm feeding into it, from my AVR, which is my receiver that has video outputs. I have like a cable that goes up above the drop ceiling, goes down and into a bunch of stuff over there. And I could easily do that, and that would allow me to stream, but also capture footage on my computer.
Yeah.
Which is the big thing is like I would love to stream doing like capturing different games, but I'm so afraid that it will like cause me to drop frames in my capture.
Yeah.
And like things to just get corrupted in various ways. So I try to keep the resources as low as I can on my main computer.
Right.
But this allows me to do that. And then I figured out ways to like get a camera over there using NDI, which is like that network. So it's like a free thing you can install on your computer, and it's like you can send video from different sources over your network.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
So I figured out a way to like send my camera, which is feeding into a capture card, you know, that I'm sending you right now.
Yeah.
But I could send that over as a source over my network, and you can load it up in OBS, and I can use this camera in there.
Yeah.
Which means, in a way, we could actually, if we wanted to, we could do a live recording of this sometime in the future, which would be kind of fun.
What do you mean? Oh, you mean like we could be streaming what we're doing right now?
Yeah.
That would be cool, actually. That'd be pretty neat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
you know what we should do is if we ever get, I mean, I know we still have some, but maybe at some point if we're ever going to do like a complete email-only show, we could do that live, because then we could also, it's like emails, but also people could ask questions in the chat.
Yeah.
I mean, I just
exactly
spitballing, but yeah.
And that would be really cool, I think. I think people would be into that.
Yeah. So speaking of like sort of setup kind of stuff, although not, I mean, this is not going to be super technical like what you're talking about, but I went, well, I don't know, can you see it behind me? I've got my little 14-inch PVM over there in the corner. You know, obviously, if you're listening to this,
the microphone is like perfectly in front of it.
All right. Well, anyway, just imagine in the corner of the room over here, I've got my little 14-inch PVM, which was sitting up here to my right. You know, back when I used to stream, you know, I had that set up so that like whatever video game console I was playing was plugged into that PVM and then output from the PVM into an upscaler, and then that's how it got captured or whatever. But, you know, I haven't really been streaming, as people may have noticed. And that PVM's just been sitting up there. And of my two 14-inch units, that's the nicer one. It's a newer one, so it does component as well as
that's
as
cool.
RGB.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know, it's just sitting up there, and it's kind of wasteful. But, you know, the other thing is I changed the setup over here so that now I have something that's desk height. I mean, this was a couple of years ago, but, you know, the piece of furniture that used to sit over here was much taller. And so when I would stream, I was sitting on like a bistro table kind of stool, right? Like I was much higher. Everything was higher up. So that PVM was really like eye level. But now it's not. So anyway, so the point is it just sits up there and not getting used. And so that's kind of a shame. And, you know, I guess in a way this is kind of inspired by what sort of the setup you have. Because, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think to your left, there's a PVM sitting somewhere. So that, like when you're doing your streams on Sunday night, you're playing on the monitor, and I'm sure you use it for other things too. My point is, I wanted to be able to have something like that, but you know, this desk isn't really big enough to put a whole ass monitor on, and I didn't really have something to set it on, and anyway, long story short is that I went to Ikea, just because, you know, there's an Ikea pretty close by, and, you know,
That's
these days,
fun going to Ikea.
Oh my God, I love, that's like my favorite, not literally, but it's one of my favorite stores to go to. Even if you don't buy anything, but I don't ever go in there and not buy something. Just, you know, little stuff like the hand over here that's holding the Max controller, like that's from Ikea. You know, even if I'm not saying I buy furniture every time, but I'll find some little knickknack or something that looks neat. And then obviously while I'm there, I'm going to eat some meatballs. But so I was looking online at their stuff, and I saw like, oh, that looks pretty cool. Like that seems promising. But they didn't have it in stock at the store. But, you know, the way it is with Ikea, even if it's not in stock, they'll have it on the floor, right? Like they have like the unit for you to look at. You just can't buy one. And you could buy it online, though. And so like, well,
but the shipping is crazy to buy it online.
Oh, well, I'll get to that in a second. But but I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go over there and just check it out like on my lunch hour, you know, because where I work is even closer to the Ikea than where I live. So I'm like, well, I'm already like halfway there anyway. So at lunchtime, I drove over there, and I had the meatballs first. I'll say that, full disclosure, because, you know, it was a little bit before lunchtime, and so there was nobody in the cafeteria or whatever you want to call it. What do they call it? Cafe? I don't know. There was nobody really there yet, and so I was able to just go get my meatballs and go sit down and eat them. And anyway, afterwards, I went and I checked out this little cart. So it's like a kitchen. They sell like a lot of kitchen islands. You know, like sort of
that like a butcher box type thing,
right? But you know, a lot of them are larger because, you know, usually people with islands, you want something kind of bigger.
Our old house had one of those as our kitchen table.
Yeah, I would love to have something like that, but I don't know. My wife wants to get one. I just feel like the layout of our kitchen, I think it would be awkward, but I'm not going to lie and say that it wouldn't be like super handy.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they come in various sizes, and they have this little one that it's important note, it's solid wood, because you know at IKEA most things are not. This is like solid wood, and the top of it is only like 23 inches wide. Which, if you measure it, for me, it's the perfect size for a 14-inch PVM and then 2 speakers, like the little desktop speakers that I use. Like they'll fit perfectly, and then there's 2 shelves.
Are they shielded? Are they
because they're
shielded?
because they're computer speakers.
Okay. Well, I mean, computer speakers now are not.
Oh, these are definitely shielded. Yes.
Okay.
They're Bose. I know people don't like Bose, but I mean, you know, I wouldn't want to have like a Bose stereo system, but you know, for the size of these little computer speakers, they sound very, very good. So
I kicked myself in the ass for getting rid of these. I had these really nice Alltech Lansing that I got, computer speakers that I got like in 1998 or something like that.
Is it the one where it's the 2 little speakers and then the subwoofer, or no?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like, yeah, I still have a set of those, but they're at work.
I see, you know, I gave mine away like about a year ago before the whole like, oh, maybe speakers are not shielded anymore.
I didn't know that computer speakers weren't. I mean, I guess that makes sense, because why would most people
because there's no reason.
Yeah,
but I bought this one in '98 when still
I didn't even think
CRTs were.
I didn't even think about that. But well, I mean, I'm not. You should look into it, because I don't know, because now there's a third. Like this is the Model 2 of these speakers, and now there's a Model 3, and I don't know if they're shielded. They're Bose Companion 2s. So if you want to look that up,
well, I mean, you'll see. If you put them next to your
but wouldn't
CRT.
you? No. I'm saying I'm saying now they're on the 3rd iteration. Maybe they took out the shielding because no one needs it anymore. I'm saying if you're going to buy something like that, you should find out. But anyway, that's beside the point. So anyway, I wanted to go check it out. I'm like, this looks pretty cool. What I like about it is that 2 of the legs have casters on them, and the other 2 legs don't. So if you want to move it, you have to tip it a little bit, and then you can roll it around. But then once you put it back down, it's not going to move, you know? And so like that way, I could roll it over here. I could have it on my right or on my left. If I want to record gameplay footage or maybe streaming or whatever, I could roll it. I'm going to put it over there in that spot where the tripod is standing. But it just, this way I'm going to have like a little self-contained, like here's a little CRT with some speakers, a couple shelves underneath where I can have a game system. I'm going to put the RetroTink 5X on the cart, so that, you know, if I want to capture, I can just hook a HDMI cable to it, and I'm like good to go. So, So anyway, so I checked it out. I'm like, yep, I think this is going to work. So I went to go order one, and that's when I saw what you're talking about. So like this card is like $90. So not, you know, it's, especially for solid wood. I'm like, it's a pretty good price, because they had stuff at IKEA that wasn't that much bigger, and then it was like $150. I was like, I don't get that. But
how do they figure that out? Maybe there's just like less of a market for.
I have no idea. Well, but yeah, I don't know. So anyway, so I add it to my cart, and then it's like, oh, it's $25 shipping, and I'm like, well, that's kind of a lot. I mean, percentage wise, but I don't know how I noticed this, but there's this option where you can either have it shipped to your house, or you can have it shipped to like a FedEx location, right? And I don't mean like a distribution center. I mean like every town has like a FedEx like drop off pickup. You know, like like where I live, there's like a CVS pharmacy that you can do
we have a CVS drop off.
But then we also have like a FedEx. You know, it used to be Kinko's, and then FedEx bought Kinko's, and so now it's like FedEx Office or something. So you can have it shipped there, and then instead of being $25, it's $4.
Oh,
so I was like,
because it requires it's just. It doesn't require a driver to actually,
I guess,
deliver it to your home.
And the FedEx office is like near where I work too. So I was like, let's just ship it.
So that's even better.
And it's like a block from the record store. So probably the $21 that I save on shipping will get spent the same day in the record store, but that's fine. So I'm waiting for that to get here, but I'm pretty excited about that. But the thing I think is funny about IKEA, and this is going to sound like I'm complaining, and I'm honestly not, but you know, if you go to IKEA, I would say that the majority of the furniture they have is not made of like, you know, wood in the sense that it's not like actual.
It's like hollow inside. It's got like the sawdust stuff inside it.
Yeah, and some of it, like, I forgot how I saw this. It was like one of their, because they sell like really cheap like side tables and coffee tables, which if you're like, you know, a college student or you're just a young person just starting out in life, that kind of stuff sense. Is great because it's like it's attractive looking and they're pretty sturdy and it's super cheap. But one time somehow I saw like one of those coffee tables that had been broken in half. In fact, it might have been at Ikea now that I think about it, because they're not trying to hide it. It's like, hey, look at what we're doing. And it's almost made in the same way as like cardboard would be, as far as the way it's reinforced and whatnot. But, you know, I think all that stuff is made with like, that's like recycled wood. So, I mean, that's good. You know, they're whatever. So my point, I'm not trying to complain like, oh, Ikea stuff sucks. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is like, if you want to go in there and you want to buy something that's actual solid wood, like, I mean, this desk that I'm sitting at and the things that are holding it up on the sides, they're not really legs. I don't know what you call them. This is all like solid wood. And I had the same thing happen with this. Like anytime Ikea sells anything that's nice, that's made of solid wood, it's always like sold out. Because like that's the problem with that cart. It's like sold out because it's like people go there and they're like, oh man, this is actually like a really nice.
Yeah.
And then
once they see it in person.
Yeah, and then they can't keep it in stock. So it's just like, I wish people at Ikea that run the show would just say, hey, you know, maybe. Like, yes, nice. We should definitely be selling this like, you know, affordable, nice stuff. But, you know, maybe we should try to sell a little bit more, you know, actual, you know, wood, you know, nice wood furniture that somebody could buy and reasonably keep for, you know, a long time. And it just seems like they're not emphasizing that at all. But obviously the demand is there because the stuff is always sold out. Yeah.
The big problem that we had with the solid wood stuff is that it didn't seem like it was finished on the outside. So it was like our kitchen counter at our old house.
Yeah.
And if you have like a dish rack or something like that, it's going to like stain it. And my wife like sanded it down.
Yeah.
Again, had to sand it down to
I agree.
get rid of that stain.
Because even my desk here, I'm not saying it's not, it's got some kind of coating on it, but I agree. It's like when I bought this desk, you know, I should have like sanded it down and put a couple of coats of polyurethane on it. Because like that's what I did. I think you've seen a picture of like my coffee setup in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And that's like, that's Ikea furniture too, but same thing. It's solid wood. And it's like a sideboard or whatever they call it. And I think normally it would go like on the wall in like a dining room. You know, I don't know. That's not what I use it for. But anyway, you know, it's solid wood, but it sort of has that unfinished look because all it has is like a, you know, protective coat of like polyurethane or something like it. And before we brought it into the kitchen, I took just the top off outside and just sanded. I put it on a sawhorse or 2 sawhorses, sanded it down. And I put like 3 or 4 coats of polyurethane on it.
That's really smart. You think that they want people to do that, to take the initiative to do that? And they figure, well, if
I don't
they
think
don't,
so.
then
I think
you know,
it's
let
just,
us buy another one.
I think they're just trying to sell stuff cheaply, and you know that would up the cost significantly. If you say, yeah, we're gonna get people to sand this down, and then put like multiple coats, you know, of polyurethane on it. So you know, but it's just like it's one of those things where like, you know, now you have the life experience to know that if you buy something like that at Ikea and you're going to use it in an application where it might get stained or something, you have to know, okay, I need to, you know, like if you did the same thing now with the kitchen counters, you would know, like, okay, we're going to put these in, we're going to have to sand them down and put several layers of polyurethane on them to get them like fully, you know, waterproof / stain proof.
It's going to be interesting, I think, in the next couple of decades, because I think that a lot of people are buying furniture and like nothing is, it feels like almost nothing is made to last anymore.
Yeah.
You know, like I have a lot of stuff that was my mom's, you know, when she moved out of her house that she gave to me because she didn't want to take it down to Florida. And it's all stuff that would basically could withstand, you know, so much mistreatment. Yeah. And now it seems like it's really difficult to buy something that is gonna last and can survive through a lot of moves and stuff. Unless you really have to go out of your way to find that stuff. You know, when my in-laws built a new house, they brought their cabinets from the old house because they were like Amish created, like made, and you know, they said, we're going to take these out and we're going to take them with us.
Yeah.
Because you can't get anything like that anymore. Or, I mean, you can, but, you know, it's going to be more difficult.
I think with like furniture, it's just, you know, I feel like a lot of people buy their furniture at like Ikea or Target or whatever, and that's all sort of made the same way. But because I'm not blaming, but I'm also not going to say like I know there are furniture stores around here I could go to and buy like solid wood furniture that's going to last,
right?
You know, and in fact, a lot of it, you know, and I've talked about this before. Like we have several, you know, pieces of furniture that are Amish made, and I'm not going to say it's more expensive. Obviously, it's more expensive, but, you know, it's kind of funny. We lived here for kind of a while before we had like an actual bed. Like we had a bed, but I'm saying we had like a box spring and a mattress just sitting on top of like that metal whatever frame that a box spring and a mattress sits on top of. And like, that's it. Like no headboard, no footboard, nothing.
Right.
And at some point we're like, you know, we should probably get a bed, you know. And, you know, so we started off going to like other stores, like, you know, I don't know how ubiquitous there's a chain called Scandinavian Design that, I don't know how, I mean, there's multiple of them around here, but I don't know how far reaching of a chain it is, but they sell like, you know, at least nicer quality furniture. And then we went to places like West Elm where, you know, they like West Elm furniture is like, you know, it's solid wood, but it's made in like Southeast Asia, and it's made out of like, you know, like rubber wood and stuff like that, you know, like trees that are nice, trees that are native to that region. And yeah, it's perfectly fine. But, you know, we went there and we saw a bed, like, oh, this one, you know, this one's kind of cool. And, you know, I'm throwing this out there, but I remember it being like, let's say like $900. And that's just for the, you know, you're not getting the mattress and whatnot. I'm just saying that's like, here's a frame with like a headboard and a footboard. But it's like, you know, they're made out of solid wood. It's just not a wood that, you know, maybe we're used to. And we're like, oh, that's, you know, maybe, I don't know. And we ended up driving over to the Bay Area because there's a furniture store over there that specializes in Amish furniture. And so we go in there and, you know, they were like super helpful and, you know, talking to me, well, how can we help you? And we said what we're looking for. And they showed us stuff. And anyway, long story short is we ended up buying a bed there that was custom made. Because, you know, they have their stuff out on the sales floor, basically. Because it's more of like a showroom, right? You go into this place and it's like, here's these different beds and dressers and kitchen tables and just everything, right?
But it's not being mass produced. It's like being done by hand every time.
Yeah. But I'm saying like you can go in the store and you can buy whatever's in the store. Or you can say, hey, I really like this bed, but I would like it a little bit better if this or that were different. And they're like, oh, yeah, no problem. You just tell us exactly what you want, and they'll build it for you, like whoever.
Yeah, how much more does that cost, though, I wonder?
Well, that's what I'm getting to. So, like, we saw this bed, and we're like, oh, this bed's pretty cool. But, you know, I think we knew that we were going to get a memory foam mattress, and, like, memory foam mattresses don't have box springs. And so, like, like the bed we were looking at was, like, made for a traditional mattress set. And so we told them, well, we want to do this instead. And like, oh, yeah, no problem. They'll build it like this instead. And like, they showed us a picture and like, oh, well, could you make it so like this is a little bit taller? You know, like whatever. Right.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, yeah, no problem. It's just like, you know, it takes like 5 months because like, you know, we have to order it. And then these Amish people who don't have electricity or whatever have to build it. And then like they ship it over, you know, on freight trains.
Right.
So, like, basically, the store puts together a big enough order that it's going to fill up, like, a sea container. And then that gets sent over from, like, you know, Pennsylvania or wherever, like, you know, on a freight train. And that goes
They got to make it worth it.
Yes. And we're like, yeah, no, like, we're not in a hurry. Like, we're just whatever, you know? So, anyway, we do all that. So, we have, like, the bed we have now is, like, solid oak. Like, definitely the kind of thing, like, that's the last bed I'll ever need, right?
Yeah.
And like I think all told, it was like $1,500.
That's
now,
great.
That's more. I'm not saying it's not more, but I'm saying the rubber wood bed from West Elm was $900. And is that really going to last me the rest of my life? I don't know. Maybe not.
Which one of them's gonna survive falling off of like the second out the like second story window if you had to like
well
get it out the window somehow.
Probably neither of them really, but so I'm saying like the same thing, like we bought like our dining room table and chairs now are Amish because it's the same thing. It's like, is it expensive? Yeah, but like if you go, you know, if you say to yourself, I don't want something like from Ikea or Target, I want something where I can reasonably say to myself, this is it. This is my dining room table for the rest of my life, right?
Yeah.
You know, you can go to other stores and see other things, or you can pay really not, you know, it's not even double to have something made to your specifications, you know, made here in America that, you know, the whole thing is, you know, solid oak or solid whatever you want it to be.
Yeah. I think that is so worth it.
Yeah.
That's so worth it. I mean,
I think it's different. If you have kids in the house, I understand. Some people are like, dude, I have kids. I'm not spending that kind of money on a kitchen table that's going to get wrecked. And I totally get that.
But at the same time,
although even then, like I know people who have they'll have like a beautiful oak table.
And it will survive kids. I mean,
but I'm saying it's got all kinds of marks in it and stuff. Like, oh, it's scratched up and it's got a bang here because, like, you know, those are its scars. You know, like that's the story of its life. Like it's not, you're not living in a museum. Like what?
Exactly.
Why is it a problem that the table that you eat at got scratched by your kid? You know, so
exactly.
Yeah.
You know, when my mom moved, you know, she had this kitchen table, and she sat at this kitchen table like every morning before work and every day after she got home from work, smoked cigarettes that my brother and I ate at like most of the time growing up, and she just like loved this table. And when she moved down to Florida, she was just like in this mode where like, oh, I'm just going to get rid of all this stuff. You guys can take whatever you want, but I don't want to move this stuff.
Yeah.
And she got down there. She like sold it immediately. I don't even know how much she sold it for.
Oh, she sold the table. You didn't take the table?
We didn't have a place for the table.
Man. All right.
I know. I wish that we did.
Yeah.
But, you know, we just didn't. But, you know, she sold it. You know, she did like a house, like an estate sale where people could just like kind of come in and buy whatever.
Right.
And she sold that. And that must have been like 6 or 7 years ago now. And she's like, the biggest mistake I made was getting rid of that table.
Oh, man.
And not moving that table. And like I got this table. I bought a table when, you know, probably from a place like West Elm.
Yeah.
You know, when she got down there, and it's just not the same.
Yeah.
And she never like sits at it. It's just, she like regrets it so much.
Yeah.
You know, there was a table, the chair that she sat in at that table we took, and it's at our kitchen table. It's like this. She calls it like a mail chair. Like I think it's from like a post office where people would sit at a desk.
Yeah.
And sort mail.
Yeah.
It's just like a really nice kind of wood chair with like some arms on it. And
I think I might know what you're talking about. I think I can maybe visualize that.
Yeah, it's kind of got a rounded back, but it doesn't have any kind of cushion unless you put like your own cushion on there.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm glad that you kept that. I'm glad that you took that.
Well, see, now you know a nice thing you could always buy for your mom. You know, you could always buy her a nice table.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that it's no matter what table I would get her, I don't think it's going to be the same.
Yeah.
You know, like I think that, and I mean, I say this about like a lot of stuff, like a lot of these games that I have behind me, you know, I could get rid of them and then rebuy another one, even if it's the exact same thing.
Yeah.
But the fact is like, what makes me enjoy having it or using it so much is that it's been with me for so long.
Yeah, and or you can look at it and remember where you got it.
Yeah, this is the one that I had when I went through this, or you know, she can get whatever table and it might be better built even.
Yeah.
But I think it's the idea of like, you know, I sat at this table.
I get that.
All these things happened.
I get that.
In my life.
But I also get why she got like the mode that she had to be in, where it's like, dude, I'm trying to move, you know, halfway across the country, and I got all this crap, and it's just like I want it out of my face. Like I totally get, you know, maybe you're not 100% thinking straight when you're going through something like that.
Yeah, and I mean, she threw out a whole bunch of stuff. Like that's where, like all this stuff just like went to the dump. Like, you know, from my bedroom and everything. Like that's where all my game magazines went.
Oh man,
I know, and stuff like that. It's very much like, oh, my mom threw away all my comic books, type thing. But you know, luckily I saved like all the actual games. But I wish that, I mean, I think about like those console boxes and stuff like that that just got thrown away. If I could go back in time, you know, it's the most annoying thing about that is that happened like 3 months before we started the channel on YouTube.
Wow.
And if we started the channel like a year earlier, I'd be like, oh, I want to keep all this stuff. I can use it.
Yeah. Yeah, that does suck. So,
anyways,
yeah.
We should probably intro the show real quick.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So you're listening to, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe you're listening to episode 24. Is that correct?
That is, I think so.
Episode 24. Here's my question for you.
Yeah.
The Kiefer Sutherland episode.
I was just thinking exactly that.
That was I was doing a crossword puzzle last night, and that was one of the clues. It was like
Kiefer Sutherland.
It was like Kiefer Sutherland's wife in 24, and I was like, I've never watched. Like, I always thought that show looked really stupid, and I say that as someone who likes Kiefer Sutherland. So like, it was stupid enough that I was like, sorry, Kiefer, I can't watch your show. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the show's awesome. I don't know. But anyway, it was like Kiefer Sutherland's wife. Apparently, it's Terry, because I solved the puzzle.
Oh.
T-E-R-I. I got the.
So you're doing like the crosswords puzzles pretty often now?
So it's weird. I go through like these weird like phases, and this has been going on for like over 20 years of doing crossword puzzles. Like, in fact, I mean, going back to, so like when I was in college, this is probably what got me into it initially, actually. When I was in college, we had the school paper, and the school paper came out every day, like Monday through Friday. I don't know if there was a Saturday or a Sunday, but certainly every weekday there was a new paper, and the paper had a crossword puzzle in it every single day. And in fact, on top of the crossword puzzle was an ad for a restaurant that was like right off campus, where if you brought them a completed crossword puzzle, they'd give you $1 off, you know. Which is fun. It's not like they checked it, right? You could just write in
that's a great idea.
gobbledygook. Yeah, it was good advertising. But you know, and now the paper only comes out once a week, so you know, it's not. But so the funny thing though, so when I was in college, well, at least up here, you know, university, it was like 2001 to 2004, right? And so like it was before like smartphones.
Yeah, and
really it was before. Like now, if I walked into like a lecture hall now, what, you got somewhere you got to be? What's going on?
Nope.
Looking at your watch.
I was just
so rude.
My watch.
I know. I'm just kidding.
I felt it vibrate.
I'm just breaking your balls a little bit. Anyway, so if you go into a lecture hall now, like probably at least half the students have a laptop open in front of them, right? And because you know, everybody now, the kids, they take notes. You know, they'll just open up Word and take notes that way. You know, or maybe they have their phone out or something. But, you know, when I was going to school, it was like everybody still took notes in a notebook. I'm not saying that was better. I'm just saying it was a different time. Like you had a notebook for each class, and you took notes in a notebook. And if somebody had their laptop out, it just would have looked weird, and I wouldn't have been surprised if, you know, I could have been in a class where the professor would have called out the person, like what I just did to you, you know, like, oh, am I boring you? Like, what are you doing over there with your computer? Because like the idea of taking notes in a laptop was just not as much of a thing. Right. Yeah. And smartphones weren't a thing yet. Right. And so my point is just like, it was a little bit more difficult to goof off in class. So the thing that like everybody did when I was a student was that crossword puzzle in the paper every day.
So because you could, like they're doing something.
Because you'd have the paper and you'd have it just sort of folded up, so it was just a crossword puzzle, and you'd have it sitting on top of your notebook, and you'd be sitting there doing that, and then after class you're like, oh man, did you get 33 across? Oh, I put this. Oh, I don't think that's right, you know, or whatever. And you know, and that's the kind of thing where, you know, it's just not a thing that's needed anymore, you know. Yeah. So, but I'm saying that's what got me into doing crossword puzzles. And then I would buy those Dell crossword puzzle books, which is, you know, no relation to the Dell computer company, but you know, they still sell those if you go to like a newsstand or something. There's those books full of crossword puzzles, and because I started getting like really into it, so I would buy those, and I would just sit like at night. I would just like lay on my couch in my apartment. You know, everybody's, oh, we're gonna go out. I'd be like, no, I'm gonna stay here. And I would just sit there doing a crossword puzzle, or, you know.
But I mean, you think that's one of the reasons you have a good, like you're good at writing, or you have like a good vocabulary?
I mean, it doesn't hurt. You definitely learn new words doing crossword puzzles. And then my mom was really into it, so like, you know, I'd go home to see her, and we would do the crossword puzzle together. You know, like she'd have the paper out, and she'd get to a point where she was stuck, and she'd pass it over to me, and I'd fill in a few more things, and I would get stuck, and I'd give it back to her. But because I filled in some stuff, she could fill. Anyway, so, you know, and that's kind of come and gone since I get in these moods where I'm going to do crossword puzzles. And lately I've gotten back into it just because, and this is the second time that I've done it this way, but, you know, I've got a digital subscription to the New York Times. Just because I work on a university, it's like 99 cents a month. And I don't really, I don't really pay attention to the news that much, so I don't really read the paper, you know. But if you have a subscription to the New York Times, then you can use the New York Times crossword puzzle app, which is a separate app.
Yep.
And it has a complete archive going back, I don't know how many years. So like you can do today's puzzle, but then like I'm done and I still want to do crosswords. You just open up the archive and they're all marked. It's like, okay, what's the last one I haven't done yet? And you can open that up and do that one.
Like,
so
lifetime, like a lifetime.
Right. So it's like, why would I ever go buy like one of those dopey Dell books again anyway?
Yeah.
Because then I do it on my iPad. You can do it on your phone too, but it's a little clunky. But, you know, I do it on my iPad, and it's a great way to do crossword puzzles.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like right now I'm in another one of these phases where I'm just doing like a crap load of crossword. Like if I'm going to bed at night, like while I'm waiting to fall asleep, I have the thing out, which is nice because it's a cool way to do it. Because like with crossword puzzles, I feel like a lot of people just say, "Oh, I can't do those or whatever," because they don't have the patience. Like they're not meant to be solved in like 15 minutes unless it's like the easy one.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't know if people don't know this, but like I don't know if this is the case with other crossword puzzles, but with the New York Times, like the Monday puzzle is the easiest, and then they get progressively harder, and then like Saturday is like that's the most impossible one. People think it's Sunday. Sunday's just a big one, but it's like the Sunday puzzle is like medium difficulty. It's just humongous. But you know, I can do a Monday like I did. I think this Monday I did it in like 8 minutes or something because it's easy. It's Monday, right? Like it's for kids practically, not quite, but like the Saturday puzzle, like some of those are just brutal. But it's not meant to be done even in one sitting. It's like you sit there and you do what you can, and you're like, okay, I'm stuck. You put it away, and then you come back to it later. You know, like if I'm falling asleep doing it, and I'm like, I'm stuck. I'm going to bed. You wake up the next morning and pick it back up, and all of a sudden, you'll get a couple more. Like, oh, I didn't think about that, you know, and you'll get another. And the minute you fill one more in, well, now you've got more letters to fill in all the crossers and whatnot. So, I don't know. I enjoy doing the crossword puzzle quite a bit. I like Wordle too, which is also in the there's like the app.
Because they bought that, didn't they? New York Times bought that.
Did they? Yeah, I think they might have.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly they have Wordle, so I like doing those.
My wife bought a New York Times crossword puzzle book that she's been slowly working. I mean, sometimes I don't know. I haven't heard her using it lately because usually she like has some questions. You know, it's been a little while. And I think I told you before that I've been getting into doing solitaire on my phone, and I'm not even a person who even knows how to play cards. Period.
Yeah.
I mean, like I know like what is it, blackjack or that 21? You know, like hit me. You know, like I can do that because you know, it's easy enough. I mean, I learned that from video games how to play blackjack. But solitaire is not something.
You should get Sierra's Hoyle's book of Hoyle's Book of Games or whatever it is. You know, the old school Sierra game from the 80s. Like played in DOSBox or something.
Maybe I'll have to.
It's pretty fun.
Find that on.
It's a cool way you can learn some new card games that way. It has like hearts and gin and stuff like that. If you want to learn how to play, you know, I don't know how many people play cards anymore. You know, like back in the day, that's like, you know, you'd get together with another married couple and you guys would play, you know, gin or bridge or something like that. But I don't. Yeah. I don't know that's that popular anymore.
There's something about, you know, my mom would play solitaire all the time. I would remember, you know, seeing her game set up at the coffee table in the living room. Yeah. And, you know, she would just do it when she felt like it. Yeah. And I never thought enough to be like, how do you play? You know, it was because I think that when there weren't smartphones and there weren't like a million things to do. Yeah. You know, that's what you did you're just passing time. Yeah. You know,
my grandfather, so I learned how to play solitaire from my grandfather, which I thought I brought this up already, but maybe not. But that's like what he would do. Every day, like he would sit at they had like a kitchen table, you know, like they didn't have a dining room. They just had like the kitchen, and then there was like a dining table in the kitchen, right?
Right.
Anyway, he would sit there. There was always like, I still have, I need to refinish it, but they had like, you know what a lazy Susan is?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it probably goes under other names too, but like, you know,
a lot of people use lazy Susans on videos to do like those rotating shots.
Oh, I don't do rotating shots, but so this is the only thing I have, like, you know, well, I guess my mom still has the table, but there was this lazy Susan sitting in the middle of the table, and it had like, you know, napkins and salt and pepper. And then there was always a deck of cards in there. And because my grandfather, he would sit at the table and just play solitaire, just like over and over. And he had like a big ashtray that was always full of cigarette butts because he like chain smoked Marlboro Reds. And he would have a newspaper because he would read, you know, like, you know, check up on his stocks or whatever. But he would just sit there and he would play solitaire, smoke cigarettes, and either eat cereal or ice cream.
I mean,
and so
that sounds like a pretty darn good. Life.
Yes.
You know,
and I used to sit with him. Like I would just sit at the table with him. And my grandfather, he was an interesting guy. He was if I had to pick one person in my family I take after the most, it's him.
Mm-hmm.
And because he was more introverted, you know. And he was kind of a grumpy guy, you know, like he was always grumpy with my grandma. Like, you know, you wouldn't think they loved each other because he was always just kind of grumpy.
And that seems to be like, it seems to be like a thing for that generation sometimes.
That's probably part of it. Yeah.
Where it's like a part of their affection is like how they yell at each other.
Well, they didn't yell, but you know,
I mean, but just like how they,
you know, but it's like she'd come home and, you know, he would just give her message like, oh, you know, Doris, one of the bridge dames called you, you know, and she'd be like, all right, and, you know. Yeah. But anyway, like, you know, and he was a guy that he didn't really like kids very much because he didn't have the patience for him, you know. Mm-hmm. But like, I was about the least annoying kid that, you know, I was quiet and I didn't, you know, I wasn't annoying. And so he and I were like really close, you know, because like I would just come watch TV. Like he had a lazy boy, you know, just like what you got. Oh, his was leather, it's not a competition. But so, you know, he'd be in his lazy boy recliner just watching like bowling on ESPN. And he had his little canister of Planters cheese balls on the lamp / table next to him. And I would just go sit in the other chair and just watch bowling with him and like not talk very much. And so like, we got along great, you know. But so like, you know, he taught me how to like read the stock page. Like, okay, here's what this means. And this says this, and that's what, oh, okay, that's cool. And I was in like elementary school. Like I was a little kid. Mm-hmm. And he also taught me how to play solitaire because he played solitaire so much. And so like, you know, I don't do it very often, but sometimes I like to go sit at my table and just, you know, I got my deck of cards there and I'll play some solitaire. Yeah. Oh, speaking of which, I'll answer this here. Since people keep asking me about the framed picture of the cow that I have upstairs that's in the background of my videos. Like, I think I showed you that where somebody asked, like, why do you have a black and white framed picture of a cow? And I said, because back then color photography wasn't really a thing yet. That was my grandfather's. That's why I have it. Like, I don't have that much stuff, you know, from, you know, people in my family who've passed away. Like, I have a few things of theirs, and it's like, that's kind of all I've got. So for my grandfather, I have this framed picture of the cow. That cow first of all, it's an autographed picture of a cow. That's Elsie the Borden cow. And, you know, like Borden, like the food company, you know, like they have like Borden condensed milk. And even today, if you look at a Borden thing, their little logo is it's a cow, right? It's a cow's head. Well, that's Elsie the Borden cow. And like back in like the 50s or 60s, they actually had a cow that they would take around, you know, back when people didn't have anything better to do. Like, oh, they're going to have Elsie the Borden cow over at the shopping center. Let's go check it out or whatever. I don't know if that's true. Are you
serious right now?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I wonder if I can pet her.
That's
anyway.
That's
so this
the
picture,
one from the logo.
Yeah. So this picture says like, you know, its autograph says like, you know, to Johnny from Elsie. And there's even a couple of old Borden labels on it. And the reason that he has that is that my grandfather was a trademark attorney and one of his first jobs was working for Borden. And so he was the guy, like if some other food company, you know, came out and had a label with a cow on it that looked a little bit too close to what Borden was doing, he'd be the one that would send him, like, you know, a cease and desist.
There's blood in the water, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's why, you know, so it was kind of his job in some way. That's the way he explained it to me. He's like, it was my job to protect Elsie.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. And if you encroach on our territory, we're gonna mess you up.
Yeah. His first job actually as a trademark attorney when he got, so my grandfather served he was in the Army in World War II, and he got discharged because he got injured, not wounded, because he was just in a Jeep accident. But that was it. He couldn't, you know, he suffered, it was a brain injury, right? So he's like, okay, yes. you can't be in the Army anymore. And so they discharged him or whatever. And, you know, I don't know how many people know this, but like if you were like an able-bodied, you know, I guess I'm too old now because I'm 45. I don't know what the cutoff was back then. But like if you were like an able-bodied male during the war and you were just like walking around, people were going to be like, why are you here? Like, why aren't you serving? And like a cop could stop you and want to see, like, you either had to have a draft card that said that, you know, you're eligible for the draft, but your number hasn't been called yet. Or what do they call it? Like 4F, where you're like, I have a, you know, one leg longer than the other or something like that. I'm not eligible to serve, you know?
Right.
Or if you had served and you had been discharged, they gave you a card for that. And so I have my grandfather's card that, you know, it's just the, you know, size of any other card. It's, you know, United States Army or whatever it is. And it says, you know, John, et cetera, honorably, you know, served honorably and was discharged on the following date. And then there was a spot for you to fill in where you worked. I don't know why, but it's just like you had to put your place of employment on the card. And so on the card, it says, the first job he had when he got out of the hospital and everything, because he had already gone to law school. Right. So when he was in the Army, he was already like a lawyer, I guess, but he got drafted. In fact, he was the first draft number that was ever called when they started the draft back.
He was number 1.
Well, that's not how they do it. They have like one of those bingo ball kind of things.
Right. But
and they pull out a number. Well, yeah, but the one number
for the area
corresponds to like a lot of people. States. Like it's not one number for one person. It's like,
oh, I see.
It's like based on your date of. It's like based on your date of birth or something. So it's like that number might have been like 10,000 people or something. But so he was, so he got called up like before we were even in the war yet, because I think people knew, like, you know, the powers that be were like, yeah, we better get the Army built back up. So, anyways, so he gets out the Army and whatnot, and he gets a job working for RCA. You know,
that's cool.
Because they had, you know, their slogan is that little terrier next to the phonograph, and it says his master's voice, right? Because it's like, oh, RCA phonographs are so clear. You know, the dog thinks that his owner is trapped inside this goofy looking thing or whatever. So anyway, I don't know what it's called now. I guess I don't know if it's the Comcast building or whatever. But back in the day, it was the RCA building, and that's 30 Rockefeller Center, the famous, you know, the NBC building that has the whatever on the roof, the observation deck on the roof. So that's what his card says. It's place of employment, 30 Rockefeller Center, New York, New York. That's pretty dang cool.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that's it. I think it is Comcast. I mean, maybe it's not. I don't know. That's where
NBC Comcast owns the building because Comcast owns NBC. But I'm saying I don't know if that building's had a few different names.
Yeah, it wasn't like GE at one point.
I think so. In fact, that might be who built the building. I don't remember. At one point, there's like a whole Wikipedia article you can read about the building that goes into all of its history and everything. And it's just like, it was. Yeah, I think you might be right. It might have been the GE building, and then it was the RCA building, or et cetera, et cetera. But yeah,
that's crazy. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's really cool that you still have that. I mean, it's cool to keep that stuff around. I think I don't have anything that I can think of like from my grandparents that's like that. Maybe, I mean, I guess I have that picture right there of like, I mean, you can't really see the microphone's in the way. I mean, that was taken, you know, my grandfather took that photo on Christmas Eve. He used to come. My mom's side would come to our house on Christmas Eve. And that's where that shinobi photo is from. Can't really see it because my microphone's in the way.
Yeah, I can't see it. Sorry.
It's like right here.
The Polaroid there.
Yeah, the Polaroid.
Wow. I mean, yeah, I have a few pictures and stuff too. It's cool, but at the same time, it bothers me because, like, you know, I've got some old family photos and I've got stuff like that. Like I've got stuff that, you know, like one time I went home and found that my mom had just this stuff in the garage that was just, you know, dirty and kind of semi being exposed to the elements because it was in the garage. And I remember I got kind of mad at my mom because I'm like, you can't treat this stuff this way. Like it was, you know, like my grandfather was really into photography when he was younger. And so when he went into the Army, he took a camera with him and he would develop his own film. I have a whole shoebox of
that's cool.
pictures that he took, you know, and a lot of it's from while he was in like basic training. And then after that, like, you know, like I said, we weren't in the war yet. And so even though he was in his unit or whatever, they would just do like training exercises, you know, on the East Coast. Cause that's where they were, you know, based out of.
Right.
But there's like, I've even got like a picture that someone took of him developing his pictures, like in a dark room. And at some point when he got back, he took, I think it was 9 pictures, and he took them down to like a framing place and had them, you know, cut a mat and make like this little collage of 9 pictures, you know, and the back's all sealed shut and it has like the sticker on the back of like the name of the business that did it for him. And it was just sitting out in the garage, like covered in a layer of dust, you know, cause he's no longer with us, obviously.
Yeah.
I remember just seeing that and just being so annoyed. Like that's your father. Like you don't care, you know? So I ended up taking it and I got it all cleaned up and like now it's hanging up in the hallway upstairs.
You know, now that you're saying all this stuff, it's like, it's reminding me that I have multiple bins of stuff from my dad's side.
Yeah.
My grandparents on my dad's side, like out in the garage.
Yeah.
They were, you know, when my grandfather died first, and when my grandmother died, my dad took a lot of the stuff, and it was a very similar situation where that stuff just like ended up like down in Florida, like inside these bins, but they're like in this outdoor. It's kind of like a car park type thing.
Yeah, a carport.
So it has like a carport. It's like a garage. It has, you know, like it's outside, but it's open up on the front. You know.
Yeah.
And all that stuff just like ended up there. And when they were when him and his wife were driving up to my hometown, they stopped by and they brought all this stuff, and that stuff is just like in bins, like in my garage. At least it's like a sealed garage.
Yeah.
And everything. And it's like photographs, but there's also stuff from, I should really go through a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
And like pick some stuff out. But I mean, also there's so much.
Yeah.
That like, I don't really know what to do. Like, what do you do in that situation? Do you just like say, I'm going to pick out a handful of things that I think look like the best, and what am I going to do with the rest? You know what I mean? Then do you just throw away the rest, or do you just like hang on to the stuff forever? Do I give it to my kids then eventually? Like how do you decide when the decision has not been made for you?
Yeah.
How do you decide what to keep?
Well, that's kind of what I was going to get at. Is just like, no. You're asking, those are fair questions, you know, but like, I don't even have kids. Right. So like, I have this stuff, you know, and like I get, you know, my mom had a weird relationship with her parents. So I think that's kind of why to her, she's like, whatever. But, you know, for reasons I already explained, like I felt very close to my grandfather and I miss him. You know, he died when I was only 12. So like I miss him a lot. And so to me, having those things of his, that's like very precious. Right. Yeah. But when I die, nobody will be alive anymore that ever knew him. Right. Right. Like I was the only grandchild that he really ever knew. Like he had 4 grandchildren, but like the other ones lived in other parts of the country, and he wouldn't go which goes back to what I was saying about him. Like my grandmother would go to the East Coast and go visit my uncle and aunt and her kids, but my grandfather wouldn't go with her.
Yeah.
He didn't feel close to his own children, right? And so by extension, for some reason, he didn't feel close to his grandchildren, except me for whatever reason, right? So I'm saying like, because you could say, okay, well, when you die, it's like I have other family that like all this stuff could go to, but they're not going to want any of it, or they're going to feel like, well, what am I supposed to do with this? You know? So
yeah.
like,
I mean, I don't have the memories or relationship.
Right. And so when I'm gone, all this stuff is going to lose the value that it had, because it only has value because of my feeling for it.
Do you think, I mean, it's like there's no real answer to this question, I think. Because, I mean, is there certain, like there's photographs that maybe you could take and donate to some, you know, like archival, you know, society or something like that. They takes these photos and keeps them just like for their like historical
there could
value,
be like he already did that before he died. He took a lot of his war photos and donated it to him to a military museum. But I mean, for me,
I mean, how long does that, you know, like what do they do with it? You know, is it just like,
well,
is it
I
even
mean, it's a
being used, or is it
museum,
just
so
going into
probably some of it's on display, but I'm sure most of it is, you know, in some storeroom or something.
Right.
But I mean, for me, you know, like my wife and I like to go to like antique stores, and you know, sadly, you see a lot of like photos in antique stores. Like sometimes there'll be whole boxes full of like, oh, this was like somebody's family photos, and now they're being sold in a box for $1 a piece because maybe you'll see something in one of the photos that you think looks neat. You know?
Yeah.
And in a way it's sad, but in a way it's just like, you know, those people lived their lives and passed away. And at some point, anybody that was alive that knew those people that, you know, valued those photos also passed away. And at that point, they're just pieces of paper with unknown faces on them, you know? And like, in a way that's sad, but in a way like that's life, right? Like that's everybody, right? Like you have your impact on the world while you're alive, and then maybe your impact, you know, reverberates through the following generation that knew you.
Yeah.
But after that,
and it's just going to get more and more like that because, you know, people are just accumulating more and more stuff. You know, we obviously have a lot more stuff than.
Oh my God!
You know,
I have way more stuff than like my grandparents had.
Yeah. And it's just like, I mean, where does, eventually, you know, when that stuff is no use to anybody, like where are we going to put it all? And that's like the eternal discussion.
Well, I mean, when I think of like the stuff that I have,
launch it
that's
into
like,
the sun.
Yeah, right. Well, that's, you know, when I think about the stuff that I have, that's like, you know, stuff that belonged to my grandparents, you know, like pictures, and I have like a lot of stuff like on my mantle in the living room where it's like these were little knickknacks that they had collected in their travels and have, you know, I remember going over to my grandparents' house and I always saw that in the cabinet, and like now it's on my mantle, right? Like I used to worry about like, oh, what's going to happen to, you know, who's going to want this stuff when I'm gone? And at some point I just came to the realization, which is kind of what I just said, like, who cares? Because like the stuff only has value because of my sentimental attachment to it. And after that, it's like, yeah, some of those knickknacks are probably antiques that are worth some money.
My mom's kitchen table.
And then they'll find their way to somebody. But those pictures, they don't actually have any value. They have value to me. So when I'm not around anymore and that value disappears, who cares what happens to them? You know?
Yeah. Like
you can't spend your life worrying about
someone can burn them to stay warm one night.
Right. That might as well.
Yeah.
Right? Because if there's nobody alive,
at least that's value to somebody.
Exactly.
In that moment, yeah.
Right. And so I don't know. I kind of came to that realization, and it just stopped bothering me. It's like these things are here really at this point to sort of enrich my life and to give me an attachment to, you know, my family. And once that's no longer needed, that's just a thing that's no longer needed. And like that's okay. You know?
Yeah. I think that's the key.
Yeah.
Is that it's okay that this happens.
Yeah. Because, I mean, you can imagine when you have like these like families that, you know, if like, oh, yes, this picture on my wall, this was my great-great-great-grandmother. And it's like, I guess that's cool that you have a picture of your great-great-great-grandmother who you never met. But if you have a lot of that kind of stuff, that's got to feel like a burden to some people, You know, it's like, well, I have to make sure I take care of all this stuff that, you know, if I had my choice of what I would have.
Or when they're gone, it's like, do I like need to feel the obligation to carry it on
right.
for them?
Yeah. And
it gets further and further away from the, like, I guess, the point.
Yeah. Anyways, this is going to seem like a very strange segue now, since we went off on that long, but in my opinion, enjoyable tangent.
Yeah.
Speaking of Ikea, going about all the way back to Ikea like 45 minutes ago, I just this week binge watched the first season of Picard.
Oh, I've heard that it is not very good. Like that first season is not very good.
Well,
or in the second season, I've heard this one that's going on right now is pretty good.
Okay, I don't know. I don't like to read reviews of stuff like that, but like I think I mentioned it already on the show. Like Star Trek: The Next Generation is like one of my all-time favorite shows. And so I think for a long time I held off watching Picard.
Right.
Just because like I don't. You know, it's kind of, and this is going back to something we were talking about a lot early on in the show, like Star Wars, right? Where I just feel like the prequel trilogy and some of the stuff that came out later is just kind of like, you know, it kind of, in my opinion, sort of sullies the whole franchise. You know, like Star Wars was good the way it was. You didn't need to make more. You just wanted to make more money, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And so sometimes I don't, you know, when you have like reboots or you have like, oh, we're going to make a new whatever, like I don't really want to watch that stuff because like maybe the material that it's based on is, you know, sort of precious is not the right word, but like, you know, like that's one of my favorite shows. And I don't want, if you're going to make something that's going to like make what in my opinion is a mockery of something that I really enjoyed, I don't want to watch that, you know, or like so there's been like books like Catch-22 is like my all-time favorite book. And there's a movie. They made a movie on Catch-22 and I won't watch it, you know, and I'm sure it's supposed to be a good movie, but like I've read that book like multiple times. Like I love that book. I don't want to watch a movie that even has the potential to cheapen the book for me, right? Yeah. So my point in saying that is that's why, like, this is 2023. It's taken me 3 years to watch Picard, and just the IKEA connection real quick is just like watching the show. I could see that the set decorators had gone to, among many other sources, I'm sure they had gotten some of their stuff from IKEA, like like not this hand. I don't know why IKEA sells two different like articulated wooden hands. That seems strange to me, and I have both. So not this hand, but the other hand. I saw it on the show and I'm like, dude, that's the IKEA hand. And then I forgot what it was, but like literally right next to it on the shelf was some other knickknack they sell at IKEA. And then I know I saw an IKEA chair, but anyway, that was the only connection.
Does that take you out of it?
Nah. Because I remember even there's like this scene where they're on the ship that they're you know traveling around on, and they had like this like picnic table kind of thing that they're sitting at. Like, you know, it's like Picard and three other people, and they're sitting around one of those tables where there's like a built-in seat around each of the four sides. But it's the kind of table you see at like a park where it's like the table and the chairs they're not chairs, right? But they're just seats that are built into the table. And it's all made of metal, and like the surface of the chair and the table is made out of some kind of grate kind of material. And then after they weld it all together, it's all dipped in like rubber. It's like I said, it's a very common table you'll see if you go to like a park or any public outdoor space. And they literally just had that table. And then that table has, in the middle of the table part, has like the little cutout for you to put an umbrella. And so they had gotten some kind of thing, like a little square thing to block off the hole. Because somehow the set decorators figured, well, that's the thing that's a little bit too obvious. We have to block that hole somehow. But anybody can look and then be like, dude, that's like I can walk 2 blocks from my house. It's like in the future,
we don't need umbrellas. We don't need tables with umbrellas.
Right, yeah. Okay, but anyways, that was the IKEA thing. But no, I'm not going to go, because I don't even know if you like Star Trek anyways. But I didn't read any reviews or anything of the show. Like, in fact, I only started watching it because I was watching some old Star Trek The Next Generation episodes. Like I signed up for Paramount Plus just because I felt like watching some Star Trek. But they would play an ad or whatever for Picard before every single episode. Like I pay for the premium version, so there's no commercials, but they still give you their own commercials at the beginning, which is fine. But and every single time it was for Picard, and I'm like, I should probably just check out Picard, you know. And but I didn't know anything about. I don't know the plot. I don't know anything, right? And I ended up watching. It's 10 episodes, and I ended up watching all. It took me like 24 hours roughly. I watched all 10 episodes. And I don't know. I liked it. I don't know what. I guess I'd be curious to go back now and read what their complaints were. I don't know. I thought it was good. I thought the thing I appreciated was I thought it was very low on the fan service. Like it kept the fan service for the most part to a minimum. Like there's some, but I hate fan service, and I feel like Star Trek has been like one of the worst offenders for stuff like that. And so to watch that and see that there's at least not very much, I appreciated that. I thought the season was good. The ending of the season was kind of like, okay, now you're getting a little bit. Some of that got a little bit people silly.
Had a major problem with. I mean, I haven't watched it.
I didn't think it was terrible, but there was some of it where I was like, oh, really? You know, because like I mean, I don't know if this is spoilers for people, but you know, warning, spoilers. In the last episode of the season, Picard dies.
Right.
And then they end up like
or something like that.
Well, they end up like copying his consciousness into like an android that ends up looking exactly like him. And it's like, well, why? Like, why did you
feel they needed to do it? Well, maybe they weren't sure if they were going to be able to continue it. But
no, because they put it like that happens in the last episode. It's not like a cliffhanger where like, oh, he's dead. And then like the first episode of season 2, oh, he's alive again. Like that all happens in the season finale. So but like, because they had put in this whole thing where it's like he has some kind of brain. They don't say what it is, like a brain tumor. Like he has a brain abnormality, and then it kills him in the last episode. And then they put his consciousness into an android.
Well, they wanted to up like, the pressure, you know, like he's like under this time constraint.
I get it. It seems like they could have left that whole thing out, and it would have done nothing to detract from this. But I mean, I'm saying I thought the plot was cool. Like it had a lot of the characters were new. Like there was like, you know, little cameos or whatever by some of the characters from the Next Generation. But by and large, aside from Picard, all the main characters are like new, because this is taking place like, you know, 30 years later or something like that, which I appreciate because it keeps it more fresh rather than trying to. Although, well, you know, I can tell from the spoil or the teasers that a lot of those characters are going to be coming back, and I don't know. I'll wait and see how that plays out. But
I mean, I'm hearing from a lot of like this, you know, like the basic things that I read here and there, which isn't much at all. I mean, I haven't watched them at all. Yeah. That you know, it's kind of being positioned as like this is like the final stuff that they didn't get to do in a movie. You know, it's kind of like this final, like, you know, because they never really got a send off in the way that like the original cast did.
I mean, that's cool, but I mean that's even how I feel about the first season. Like it feels like a plot from one of the movies. Yeah, but I mean that in a good way. Like it had more of the feeling, you know, of, although I haven't seen all the movies because apparently, you know, I never saw Nemesis. That was the last movie, I think, with the original or with the Next Generation cast. And I never saw it. So they were making references to stuff where I didn't realize I was supposed to know that.
Well, now it's probably on Paramount Plus. You should watch it.
I'm sure it is. I've
only seen it one time.
I went and looked up the basic. I'm like, wait, what happened? And then I said, oh, okay, that's what you're talking about. That's fine. But no, I should watch it. But so I don't know. I don't know how the second and third seasons will go. I'm sure I'll get around to watching them. But I enjoyed, for the most part, overall, I enjoyed it. So
well, the real question is though,
nothing's ever going to be perfect. So
since you have Paramount Plus, you should check out the new Beavis and Butthead show. That's on there.
Oh, I didn't know that was on there.
And there's a movie also.
What?
There's like
not
a new
Beavis
movie that came
Butthead
out.
Do America, another movie.
Yeah,
I'll watch that. Shoot, I didn't know it was on there.
It came out on there, and I think it kind of bridges this gap between the original show and like what came out, like what's coming out now. And I've heard that the new show is really good. I heard that like instead of music videos, they watch like internet videos.
Well, that would be more appropriate for the time, right?
Exactly.
So, I'll check it out. I didn't realize that was on. I haven't really explored like what else. I literally signed up for it to watch Star Trek, so I just haven't looked around.
You should watch
to see what else is
there.
Go
ahead. I haven't watched it. I'd love to hear.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to do that then as sort of like homework, and because I'll come back maybe next week.
Yeah.
And I'll report back my findings, and then maybe you can decide if you want to check it out. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just because now I've signed up for like another streaming service, so I need to go. I need to go.
Like
clean.
Never ending.
I mean, it's just hard because there's two of us, and so like for me, like I'm done with Netflix. Not because Netflix didn't do something to make me angry. I'm just saying like I can't remember the last time I watched Netflix. Like we were watching it because like my wife got me all into The Crown. Like, people can make fun of me. I like The Crown, right?
Yeah.
Although then we were all excited because like, oh, the last season of The Crown, although I guess it's not the last season, but like the next season of The Crown came out. And we're all excited and we watched it. And I thought this last season of The Crown like sucked. And so I was like, that kind of blows. And so but after that was done, I was like, okay, I'm ready to cancel Netflix. But there's like always one thing where my wife was like, oh, I wanted to watch whatever. I'm like, that's fine. Like, it's not like we can't afford it. Like, if you want to keep Netflix, it's fine. But like, I think if my wife sat down and actually saw how much I spend every month on streaming services, she'd be like horrified, right?
Yeah, well, I think that's true for like every family in America right now.
I mean, because we have YouTube TV, which is already like $72, and then like I have Amazon Prime, but I never got that for the streaming. Like I really don't
that's just
care.
That's just bonus. Yeah, same here.
Yeah, but then we got Netflix, the cock, of course. And we have HBO Max, but we don't pay for it, so that doesn't count. That comes free with my home internet. And then now I have.
Do you have Apple TV?
Paramount. Oh yes, thank you. Yes, I have Apple TV.
Have you? Do you watch Ted Lasso?
Yes, but we haven't watched the season that just came out. We haven't watched it yet, so don't.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's
spoiling
weekly
stuff.
I haven't watched the most recent episode.
They don't release it all at once.
Nope.
That's nice. I don't like that.
We talked about that quite a bit, I think, and.
Probably.
I think that I often butt heads with Try over it because he's like, oh, I'd rather just watch everything all at once. And I just feel like it's easier to say, hey, this one episode is out. It's like easy to find an hour or
how many
45 minutes to watch something.
Yeah. How many episodes are out now? Do you know?
I think the third one just came out.
Okay. Because then I would like to say like, okay, I should tell my wife, let's go watch those episodes. And then after that, we could set up like a weekly date or whatever to watch the new episode.
I mean, that's how it is with us a lot of times. I think it comes out on either Sunday or Monday.
Okay.
And
like check that out.
Usually, I'm usually on Monday. That's the night that I go to bed early because on Sunday we do our live stream and I'm usually up later than I normally am that night. So it's just like I'm going to go to bed. And we'll watch something like in bed. But yeah, we don't got a ton of time. We should probably hit that slap or yeet. If you have any,
no, because it's your turn.
Oh shoot!
I did the one last time.
I don't know if I have anything.
Well, that's
I've been like so like
that's unacceptable.
Into like working on this thing.
I get it.
I do have like a random thought. It's not a slap or yeet thing, but it's something that I wrote down on random thoughts.
All right. Well, we can do that because I did have one question for you, so we could just trade.
Well, this isn't even a question. It's just like a statement that I'm just wondering if you have any insight into.
Okay. I'm usually pretty good at, even if I don't have any insight, I can make something up.
I feel bad. Like I just been so focused on this other thing.
You have nothing to feel bad about. I would have gotten one ready if I had known.
Yeah. I need to find it here, though. I don't think I have.
Well, now you're just creating dead air.
Yeah, I know. I'm just creating dead air. Do you want to go? You go ahead and you want to go first, or do you want me to just? I just go.
Please.
Do you think that it's like a skill? Because it's something that I've thought about a lot. And how long do you think? How do you think you develop this skill? It's just like from knowing so much music, like radio DJs. Yeah. How do you think they get so good at knowing exactly how much they can say?
Yeah.
when a song starts before the singing starts.
Oh, I think that's the thing that they have, like,
they have a counter, like they know exactly.
Like, I bet back in the day when that stuff was coming off of tapes or whatnot, I bet those tapes were marked where, like, this song has X number of seconds of space at the beginning. And I think now so it's all like, digital, and I bet it's the exact same thing. Like, I think you start the song, and I bet there's a little counter on the screen. This is how much time you have to get out whatever you need to say before it's time to shut up.
I mean, that even like knowing exactly what you need to say in that amount of time is like, I feel like that is not something you like.
I think that's the skill. Is knowing, like, okay, like 7 seconds, I can say about, you
have to learn.
I can say like 1.5 sentences or whatever, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, maybe they have copy or something like that. It's like, all right, read this and get it. Like,
yeah.
You can say this with
I remember,
this song.
I don't know if you talked about Booth Junkie before, the YouTube channel, Booth Junkie.
You've mentioned the channel, but
like, I remember, well, so he's a voiceover guy, right? That's what he does for a living. He does voiceover, and then he talks about it on the show. He reviews microphones and talks about other topics in voiceover. And like, he's kind of talked about how like somebody will hire him to say, okay, we want you to say this, and you have 10.5 seconds. And like, that's a learned skill of like, okay, like I said this and it took 12 seconds. So I'm gonna have to pick up the pace a little bit. Or I'm going to have to rewrite this a little bit. You know, like being able to say a certain thing in a certain amount of time is like a learned skill. So,
and maybe you think the radio DJs are probably among the most skilled communicators in the world?
I mean, maybe in that way, at least. I don't know.
Like, I've been just really efficient.
I've been getting pretty annoyed at radio DJs lately. So, like, I don't know. I thought we brought this up before, but I feel like lately there's been this shift back. You know, I feel like in the old days, like, you know, DJs were like, oh, yeah, I got to listen to this because, like, you know, whoever is on, you know, like Richard Blade, there's a famous DJ. Like, oh, I got to listen to Richard Blade's show or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
I got to listen to Rodney on the Rock, you know. And then I think for a while it went back to, like, you know, now the DJ is really just there to give you, like, you know, time and temperature, and then say, okay, here's, you know, here's some train song you don't want to hear. And which I kind of appreciate, just because, like, I turn on the radio to listen to music. Like, I don't care about you. Like, I don't want to hear your opinions on things. I especially don't want you to let anybody ever call in, ever. Like, you know, like, this one time I used to listen to Jim Rome. I don't know if you know who Jim Rome is.
Yeah, no, I know that name. Yeah.
And he said, this was before I even started my show, but it's like, when he said this, it resonated with me. And when I started my show, I kind of kept that in mind. Like, I don't know if he was reading some, like, listener email or something, but I just remember this line he said. He said, more of you and less of me is bad for the show. And I think that was sort of his justification for not having more callers.
Yeah.
Because, like, and he was saying, it's like, nobody listens to this show because they want to hear you. They listen to the show. And I get that maybe that sounds egotistical, but it's the truth, right?
Yeah.
Like, I can't stand call-in shows. Like, I listen to NPR, and there's like a call-in show every day, and it's just like, I don't want to hear this. It's like Next Door on the radio. It's like, I don't want to hear the bad opinions of the people that I live with. And it's no different. I don't want to listen to, like, a sports talk show and listen to their bad opinions. And the reason I bring that up is, like, now you have these DJs on these radio stations I'm listening to where, first of all, they're talking too much because they show up and it's like they think it's a podcast where it's like, okay, here's the topic we're talking about today. Like, and it's always something stupid. Like, how did you get your name? You know, it's like, oh, well, I got my name because blah, blah, blah. And then they start taking callers. Right. And it's like these people calling in, it's like some dude my age is calling into a radio show to talk to whoever and be, and like, oh yeah, I love your show, blah, blah, blah. And here's how I got my name. And it's just like, are you kidding me? Like, can you play some classic rock? That's why I'm listening, you know? And so I always end up changing the channel, you know?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's good.
That's often a little bit of a tangent, but it's just like, you know, the thing about talking until the music gets to the point where you can't talking, I think that's a learned skill. Other than that, I don't know. I mean, I guess the radio stations are just like, listen, people can just listen to Apple Music and we have to offer something more. But, you know, for me, it's just like, you know, I like listening to the radio for the music because, like, you never know what they're going to play next, you know? And so you put it on and it's like, okay, that was Steely Dan. And then here comes, you know, Steve Miller Band. And you're like, oh, I haven't heard that one in a while. That's cool.
Yeah.
All right. I was going to ask you a different question, but based on that, I'm going to ask you this one instead. Because I think this is probably kind of a quickie anyways, right?
All right.
And I'm going to tell you why, you know, I don't want to get into the mode of answering my own question, but I'm going to tell you why I thought of this question.
Okay.
You know, I mentioned how in my car I just have a CD player, and so I have like a CD thingy full of albums, right? Mm-hmm. And for whatever reason, the other day I was like, I'll listen to the same album like several times, and at some point it's like, all right, dude, like it's enough of you for a while. I got to put something new in there. And one of the albums I have in my car is Hysteria by Def Leppard.
Okay.
And so I put that in, and like I love Def Leppard. I think if you think of all of the rock bands from the glam rock era, to me it's like Def Leppard's up here, and then like everybody else is like below them. Like they're like the king. And no disrespect to like bands like the Scorpions, who are also like awesome, but Def Leppard are the kings, right? Okay. And so I'm listening to and you know, Hysteria came out in like 87, right? And it was like, that was like their second really like Billboard topping type of album.
Is that the one with Photograph on it?
No. Photograph is the album before. Pyromania. Okay. That was Pyromania. Okay. Hysteria has like Rocket and Armageddon it and Pour Some Sugar on Me.
Yeah, okay.
And Love, what is it? Love Bites or whatever it is.
Yeah, yeah.
It's got like several hits on it, right? But anyway, so I'm listening to this and I'm just thinking like, man, like anytime I listen to music like that, I'm always like, can somebody please build me a time machine and get me the hell out of here? You know, like I want to go back to the 80s, please. You know,
well, that's what you said when I sent you that like that Kickstarter for that mall,
the mall
thing.
Yes, and part of that was, I think that when you showed me that is like right when I was listening to all this Def Leppard.
Yeah, yeah.
But it just made me think like, man, how cool would it be to go back in time and go see Def Leppard live, like on that Hysteria tour, where you know they were playing arenas, right? I think stuff like that is why Metallica made the Black Album, because they wanted to make arena rock and go play in arenas, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so, I mean, I meant to look it up and I didn't. Like, I'm kind of curious, like, what was the Hysteria tour like who was opening for them and stuff like that. But I was just thinking, like, how cool would it have been to go see Def Leppard live back then? And so the question that leads to, if you had the ability, you can go back in time to go see like any concert, you can go see any band at any point in history, right? Like not just you say, oh, I want to see Metallica, but I want to see them on like the Master of Puppets tour, or just like whatever. Like, what would you like? What's like the first thing that comes to your mind? Like, oh, I wish I could go see X band on the tour for like Y album.
Oh my God. It's like so much on the spot. I mean, like I think it would have been awesome to go to like Woodstock '94. Does that count?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
like
why not?
It just seems like the best time ever.
Was that the one that was like a total shit show, or was that Woodstock '99?
99
right?
Is the one that was like
'94 was okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, 99 or 94 was so good that they said, well, we're going to do another one in 5 years. Yeah. And I mean, you look at, you know, like who was at 94 and who was at 99, you can see how much, you know, like music had changed in that short amount of time.
For sure.
Oh my God.
And I'll just say while you're thinking, like if you ask me again next week,
it'll be somebody else.
Because I could see somebody saying like, really, you can go see anything and you want to see Def Leppard? No, but I'm just saying like that was when I'm listening to that album, I'm just thinking, man, how cool would it have been to see them? Right. If I could only go see one, I'm sure Def Leppard would probably have to get bumped, you know?
Oh my God. This is like, I'm trying to think of like a million different things.
I'm not trying to give you like an aneurysm or anything. I could think of a ton too. Like, I mean, how cool would it have been if you could have seen like Nirvana unplugged? You know, I don't know how hard would it have been to get tickets for that? I don't know, but like that would have been amazing. You know. Mm-hmm.
Dude, I don't know. I mean, there's like so many bands that I wish that I could have seen that I never got around to seeing. I've been listening to this good podcast called Waterproof Records with Jacob Givens, and he just talks about different albums, and each episode is a different album, and he's like our age, and he's he just did one on on Pixies, not the Pixies, on Pixies. Yeah, I guess it's saying the Pixies is like a
it's like the Smashing Pumpkins.
Yeah, but at least like
or
Pixies.
I just found
Pixies
out
have never been called the Pixies
or the Eagles. It's not the Eagles. It's just Eagles.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Well, I guess that's a good way to put it, but yes.
So
I mean, Smashing Pumpkins
the dude
actually
should have
said the Smashing Pumpkins.
He should have said, "I effing hate Eagles, man." It's not the.
Man, I don't think they're that bad.
That's what the taxi driver should have said.
Yeah.
I used to hate the Eagles, and then I think it was because I didn't realize how many songs I liked were Eagles songs. Like I went through this period where I'd hear a song, I'd be like, "Wait, that's the Eagles," and then you hear another one, "Wait, that's also the Eagles," and then I realized, okay,
that happens a lot.
I guess I like the Eagles. Actually, I can't say I just don't. I mean, Hotel California is just way overplayed, and I just don't ever need to hear it again, unless it's the Gypsy Kings version, which is awesome. But they had so many other songs that are. It's kind of like you can't judge Led Zeppelin based on like Stairway to Heaven, right? Like I don't ever need to hear Stairway to Heaven again. I don't ever need to hear, Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen again.
Oh yeah.
But outside of those, like those bands have like amazing, discographies or whatever. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So just point being, Eagles, pretty good actually. Turns out.
I mean, I say like I saw Radiohead open for REM in '95, but I wish I could have seen them when OK Computer had come out.
Yeah.
Like when they were like headlining. Like I would have loved to have seen them then.
Yeah. Speaking of that, again, I'm just trying to give you time to think also, but some like kind of a fun exercise I did yesterday, just because you mentioned Radiohead. So I have Tidal as my streaming, music streaming, but I have to think that all the other streaming services are like the same. Like if I open the Tidal app on my iPad and go to any artist, like, yes, it has all their albums listed, but like at the top, it says like top tracks, and you can click on that, and it's like a numerical listing, which I'm assuming is just based on like how many times each one of those tracks has been streamed.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to go through that and look at different artists and like, okay, what do I think their most popular track is going to be? Mm-hmm. And oftentimes it's like tracks that I don't like, right?
Yeah.
Like Radiohead's top track is Creep, which
I mean, of course it's going to be, even though it's like,
but like I hate that.
That's
song.
the one, but because that's the one that people like know who don't know.
But then there's other bands where I would just think like, okay, I can think in my head like, here's what I want this band's top track to be, but I'm sure it's not gonna be. And then I like Metallica, right? I literally because I was kind of playing this game on my iPad.
I mean, you'd assume it's gonna be like Enter Sandman, but it's probably not.
I'm like, I want Metallica's top track to be Master of Puppets, but it's gonna be Enter Sandman. And then I went and looked, and their top track actually was Master of Puppets. I was like, oh, okay, well, that's good.
You know why, though? Because it was just in the season of
Stranger Things.
Stranger Things,
wasn't it Stranger Things? Yeah, that's true. And then I forgot which other one. It was kind of interesting. I looked on Tool's thing, because I would have expected Sober.
Yeah.
But it's that Pneuma, like Pneuma. Is that Pneuma? I don't know how to say that. It's that song, which I thought was interesting because I bet it's because there's that company, Vic Firth, that makes drumsticks, and they set up these cameras on Danny Carey's drum set and just record the entire video. It's at a concert, is just him playing that song, right? The entire video, right? It's the full song, but the entire time it's just on him. And I mean, I think Danny Carey is probably the greatest living rock drummer as far as skill goes. And so I remember I saw that, and Vic Firth uploaded that video to their YouTube channel. And I remember I saw it when it didn't have that many views yet, because it ended up in my recommends. And I remember watching that, and I was just like, dude, this is going to go like viral plus, and it did. I mean, that video has like millions of views, because it's just amazing just watching. It's like, how are you playing different, like your legs and your arms are playing like completely different time signatures. Like, I don't know how you do that. Like, that's Blows my mind.
Well,
right?
I don't even understand how that would work. Like,
that's what I'm saying. I don't.
The only way you can do that is like, is this guy existing in multiple realities at once?
No, it's like I watched a video like a video that's like trying to show drum. Like if you're a drummer learning, it's like how to do like exercises to like start tapping one beat with one hand and tapping a different beat with the other hand. It's like you can learn how to do that, but it's very, very difficult, right? And so for someone like him to do that is like, But anyway, my point is that's the song, and so I think people are watching that and then going and checking out the song because it's like there's no way that's their most popular song, but
right, yeah.
But anyway, I just thought it was because then you can take bands like you can go, okay, REM. I'm gonna go look what's REM because you got to think in your head.
I saw them exactly when I'm glad that I saw them. I mean, I could have seen them before that, but I feel like there's something about the exact time that I saw them that I wouldn't trade it for anything. Yeah. For any other time.
I was saying you could take REM and you could think of what you think their most what their most popular track is going to be, and then go check.
I thought you were talking about like seeing them.
Well, no, but I was going to ask that.
I mean, I would say
like,
that
I think like would you have wanted to go back
and be their most popular song? I bet.
See, I would assume "Losing My Religion," but I don't.
It's going to be either "Losing My Religion" or "Everybody Hurts." I bet. Yeah. I feel like it's probably "Everybody Hurts" more than "Losing My Religion" at this point.
Yeah.
Or it's either that or the one I love.
Maybe. So, but you wouldn't have been interested in like, or that wouldn't be a priority for you. Like, I want to go see REM back in like the early days. Like,
no. I feel like I saw them at exactly the time. I mean, because I wouldn't trade that for anything. It was, I mean, I say it all the time, but like seeing them on September 29th, 1995, like it changed my life. It changed who I was.
Yeah.
And I don't think that seeing them at any other time before that, because every time that I saw them after that, it never, achieved that same effect. Yeah. But like in that moment, it changed my life.
What album were they touring in
Monster.
Support? Monster, okay. So like that was the tour when they were recording New Adventures in Hi-Fi.
Yeah. Yeah, which is one of the reasons I think that it's my favorite, because I was so into it. So like into them, like after seeing them, that when that album came out, like it was just a continuation. It's like, this is, like when you're into a band, the most that you'll ever be into them, like that, whatever new album comes out during that time is going to be like, I mean, and it helps it when it's like actually really, really good too. You're not disappointed. But
do you remember? I mean, I guess you can look it up, but like, were they taking any of those songs that ended up on New Adventures in Hi-Fi and playing any of them live during the Monster tour? Or
oh yeah,
like sometimes bands will be like, "Hey, check out, we got a new song. It's not out yet," and they'll play it. Like, I don't know if they were doing any of that.
That show was like 2 weeks after the MTV Video Music Awards.
Okay,
where like they kind of won a whole bunch of stuff. Like they were like the I guess like the guests of honor or whatever for that year. And that was during that show they played the Wake Up Bomb, which is the second song on that album, for the first time, like anywhere, I guess. And then they played it at the show. I mean, they played Wake Up Bomb, they played Undertow, they played Departure. And probably like Binky the Doormat. I think so. That's like 4 songs off that album they played during that show.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And a lot of times, I am like, if you see a band, it's like, oh, we're gonna play some new stuff. It's kind of like, you don't need to. But that was one of the first times where or that's one of the only times I can think of where like I heard that stuff, and because I was so into it.
Yeah, no, if you're really into a band, it's different. Like,
but even
please,
even
hit
leading
me up
up
with some
to
new
it,
stuff.
like I was into them, but like seeing them live was like it changed everything for me.
Yeah,
like it made me from like, oh, like I have Out of Time and I have Monster, but I don't have like any other albums. Yeah. And after that, I was like, I need to listen to like every single thing. It was like they were the only band that I listened to for at least a year and a half.
So like you went out and bought all the rest of their albums?
Everything, and then I would just like there's this one place in Erie, Pennsylvania, in a mall, and they had like CDs of like live performances, and I bought like a whole bunch of those, and I just like every single day. That's like literally all I listen to.
No, I mean, I've gone through the same, not with REM obviously, but I've gone through the same thing. So
I mean, it changed my life, and it made me like, you know, had a huge effect on, you know, the person I was. And I mean, it happened, like it was I guess like that happened at a time when, you know, I was just kind of becoming who I was, or I was going to become. I just like gone through like I just like lost like 60 pounds, and like
subsequent to that, or like before,
like leading up to that.
Okay.
So I just, you know, and it was like this school year where I had like left the previous school year, and I came back like having lost a whole bunch of weight, feeling like a totally different person.
Yeah.
Like a lot more confidence and everything.
What was that? That was probably like what, your junior year, 95?
Yes. Yeah. It was like going from 10th to 11th.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just like a lot of like life changes. And I think about that and like what it meant for me, and like just how I became, like, you know, is like it just had such a gigantic impact on like on the person that I was going to become. And just like, even just like as a music fan, you know, like it's one thing to like, oh, I like this band on MTV, but when you see that being played live and they're like really playing it, and it's just like in the Buffalo Memorial Auditorium at the Odd, that was, you know, like, you know, it was unlike anything that I had ever experienced before.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I mean, I could talk about it probably for hours, like just going through the set list. Like I remember so many, like almost like every single song.
Yeah,
you know,
that's awesome. Well, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't mind hearing more about that at some point. You know, because you always bring it up. You always kind of bring it up and like, oh yeah, it was like a life change. I always kind of want to try to pull more out of you, but then I don't know if it's like, maybe it's like super personal and you want to talk about it.
No. I love talking about it. I don't really have a lot of opportunities to talk about it. It's just, it was enormous.
We should. Yeah. We're gonna do that then. But before we end, and I forgot to say this. I was going to say it earlier, but then you mentioned the thing about losing a bunch of weight, so I got to bring it back up. I don't know if you're still going to the gym. I know for a while you're talking about going to the gym a lot, but in my Discord, somebody posted a screenshot of you in that Anbernick video, and just said like, man, Coury's looking pretty jacked. And I have to say,
I don't know why.
Because then I watched the video, and you know, because you could say, well, it was probably like, you know, in that one particular like frame, but I got to say, like in that video, like I said, I don't know if you're still going to the gym. I don't know if it was the shirt you were wearing or the angle, but you looked pretty yoked. You know, you looked borderline swole.
I mean, it would be nice if that was. I am going to the gym. I will say that.
Like I felt like your lats were kind of bulging a little bit. You know.
Yeah, but I mean that's just like, and also like, you know, it's kind of like a slight downward angle from like where my.
Listen, all I'm telling you, whatever you were doing in that episode.
I mean, when you see this, it's just like,
okay, but anybody our age can do what you're doing. Like I can, like, you know, like obviously, you know, right? You know, it's gonna stay that way. You shouldn't do that. Anyway, I just wanted to pass. If somebody said to me, "Oh man, Chris looks pretty," you know, he's looking pretty, whatever, you know,
pretty
in
jacked.
that video, like looks like he's doing something. You know, I'd like to hear that. So I just felt like maybe that'll make your day. Like, hey, just so you know, some strangers on the internet think that whatever you're doing is working.
Okay. Well, I mean, I haven't been doing it too consistently until lately. And now I'm
maybe
like
after the show you'll drop and give yourself 20 or something like that.
Maybe.
You know.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I wish that the scale was reflecting that, but maybe it's because I've been lifting heavy. Like
my scale quit working and I threw it out. I don't have a scale anymore, and it's what do you want that for? Like it's nothing. Having a bathroom scale is
like how well you
it's
feel
an emotional
and how they fit.
it's an emotional roller coaster that you don't need to ride. Like, yeah, it's like do your clothes fit nice? Like I'm like my clothes are fitting pretty good, so I'm like, hey, you know. In fact, after this, I'm gonna go buy a new pair of pants. Actually, I already bought them. I have to go pick them up. But yeah, whatever. All right. Well, I think that's gonna do it for episode 24.
Yeah, we had no.
Here's my question for you.
Or yeet.
Yes, but right. There was no does it slap or should we yeet it this episode. But to be fair, there was 2 last episode. So
okay, you know, so we made
at
up
some
for
point
it.
you got to pay. Some point you got to pay the piper. So there you go. And only other thing I was going to say, you know, I don't spend too much time looking at like, you know, the analytics for the show because like at the end of the day I don't actually care really. Right? It's not going to make a difference in my life. But
yeah.
You know, the only time I log into Podbean is I have to upload the show, right? So like at some point I'm going to upload this show. And so when I uploaded episode 23, you know, the information is right in front of you. And we're not there yet, but we're rapidly approaching 1,000 downloads per episode.
Really?
Just the audio, that not including YouTube. That's surprised.
Cool. I had no idea.
We're getting like 700-800 now. So it's, you know, the growth has been slow but steady. So yeah. I think that's pretty cool.
Slow but steady growth is the way to do it, I think.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. I mean, if we just had success overnight, then those people would be like, oh.
And I think the video version of episode 23 got kind of stunted.
Oh, right, yeah.
Because I had to delete it and re-upload it. And it seems like the YouTube algorithm doesn't like it when you do that.
No.
So it didn't get as many views, but I don't really care. But it's just, you know, it's rewarding to see that we're, you know, building a bit more of an audience. So
heck yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I gotta go. I gotta get back to this video.
Yes.
But you know, have a good weekend. I hope everyone listening had a good weekend.
Yes, you've already had a good weekend. My weekend hasn't started yet. 3-day weekend for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna still be in Milwaukee when this comes out because we don't fly out until Monday.
Yeah. Don't forget to try to get me a copy of Dr. Mario if you see one.
Oh, I'll keep an eye out for that.
The only reason I want, like when I bought that folder we talked about last week, it came with the box and instructions for Dr. Mario. But
you need to.
I don't have Dr. Mario's. I just need a copy to make it complete. You know.
Yeah, and that's got to be like a $5 game.
Oh yeah, because even complete Dr. Mario is pretty cheap.
Yeah, but you might as well complete that copy.
It's a cool game. Exactly. I mean, I know I can just go to a game store and get a copy, but I don't live near any game stores. So
yeah.
All right. Anyway, you have fun at the Milwaukee Gaming Classic.
Midwest Gaming Classic.
I'm sorry, but it's in Milwaukee, right?
It is.
Okay.
I'm going to Milwaukee for the second time in 2 weeks.
That's true.
You know, I don't know if I mentioned this before real quick. You know, when you go to Milwaukee and you fly there and you get off the plane, you immediately smell beer.
Is that true?
I mean, that's what I thought. I immediately got off the plane and I was like, it smells like beer. I smell beer.
That's awesome. You think they're piping that in or you think that's real?
I don't know. I'd be curious.
Well, that sounds like a place I need to visit then.
Yeah. Maybe when I'm there though, if I find a comfortable looking Milwaukee's Best,
yeah,
you know, the Beast T-shirt, maybe I'll grab one.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
They have them right in the airport.
I meant to talk about beer today, actually, but we ran out of time. And I have a beer to tell people about, but I don't have the can in front of me anyway, so that'll be
you can save that for
a
next
topic
time.
For next week. Yeah.
Anyway,
I only bring that up because I was going to tell people, like, hey, go see Coury at the Midwest Gaming Classic. But by the time they hear this, it'll be too late.
You missed it. It happened and you missed it.
Yes. I hope you feel bad.
Or maybe you were there anyways and we met.
Yeah. There you go.
Maybe you gave me a high five.
Yes. Or a fist bump.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Who knows?
Anyway, see you next time.
Take care.